One of the things I love is to show young people in this movie a bunch of adults who are journalists who've given their life to this career and who are working very hard to get a story and ask what story matters and what part of the story matters and what's legitimate about the story.
Let's do our jobs. Find those pages.
Ben, I might have something.
It must be precious cargo.
It's just government secrets. Journalism has been run down so much by President Trump, and I think it's great to show a group of journalists working hard and caring about what they do. And maybe it's a way to balance out the conversation about fake news and stuff.
The New York Times was barred from publishing any more classified documents dealing with the Vietnam War.
If you publish, we'll be at the Supreme Court next week.
Meaning?
Well, we could all go to prison.
Nowadays, so much stuff is outsourced and done individually, and people have blogs. And one of the great things about that is an individual can go places that a corporation or a group maybe has a hard time getting into, but they don't have that process, and that where they're refining the story, building it out, and double checking it. And so here they are in the movie The Post, journalists presented doing their job, and we see what their job is as a group, and challenging each other and getting the best out of each other and getting the story and maybe getting it more right, or at least more thoroughly than a person alone can do. I guess there's a point to both, but right now we're just overwhelmed with information, and there's so many places for people to source the information, to get information, but you don't know who's legit and who's taken the care to put it out. In the case of a real news organization, they're putting that effort in.
Spielberg was asked who the movie's for, and he said it's for people who've spent the past 13, 14 months starving for the truth.
Yeah, well, that's more political than I would be, because honestly, I don't think it's a partisan film at all.
There's dozens of stories in here. The Times has barely scratched the surface. We have 10 hours till the deadline, so we dig in.
This is the shortest production schedule he's ever had, Steven Spielberg. 44 days, I believe it was.
Did it feel like sort of
It
a
felt
shoot
fast.
from the hip?
Yes.
Really?
He had no storyboards. Occasionally he had a plan, but usually he put a plan together with us walking around the room in a very, very brief amount of time, and it was always an inventive, rip-roaring, Spielbergian, motivated camera choice that was inspiring to imagine, because I mean, I'm in the scene. I can't see what he's shooting, but when he takes that camera and puts it right here, and as you walk out and then walk over there and then walk back into the frame, and then the backdrop is another, you're like, oh man, that's gonna look so great. That's so Steven Spielberg. There's a great shot that he's like, this is from Raiders. He's constantly referencing his shots, and he's like, this is from Jaws, this is from Raiders, or from an old movie. He's like, they did this in The Third Man or something, And he's seen every movie so many times. And then we do a couple takes, not too many, but 7 or 8 maybe. Once or twice we did 1 or 2. And then he moves on. He knows what he wants. He knows exactly what he wants. He's making that movie in his head as he watches you do it. He found this crazy shot banked off this shiny metal on the phone, which it wasn't put there by the prop department. It was just part of the phone. These were phones of the era, 1971, and he said, hey, what about this metal here? Is that shiny enough to get a reflection? And he angled the camera up, and I had to stand just so. I couldn't move my head at all, and he got this really cool shot that after he was done, and we only did like 3 takes of it, he came over to me, he goes, come see this, come see this. I come over, and he plays it back on the monitor, and he looks at me and he goes, it's like a 70s movie. And I go, all right, well, you're Steven Spielberg, so you kind of define a 70s movie. I guess it's wild, but he was really happy. I think I'm very lucky to have so much variety. I think it works for me and it's good for my head. And I have had this great luck of not becoming that famous or popular. And I think because of that, even though I wrote Motivational Speaker, which is, you know, one of the most beloved SNL sketches, but I wasn't in it. So I had the joy of being a part of this huge thing, but it wasn't I wasn't labeled with it. Saul is the biggest thing I've been labeled with in the wider public, where people will see me and yell, Saul, and that's all they know I've done, and that's what they think I do, and that's, for those people, I guess they might think that's the only thing I want that guy to ever do. But I don't define myself by their sense of me at all, because I spent 30 years doing a variety of things, so it's just even hard to even, when they yell Saul, I'm like, is there some guy named Saul? And, oh, right, I play that character. I have to remind myself that I do that. Anyway, I don't feel defined by any one thing, and that's because of because I didn't get famous at a young age with one thing. I've just been all over the place, and for so many years, I was a sketch comedy guy, and I was famous on a level that was very fun and enjoyable and cult fame, you would call it. And I could walk into a room and I could tell you, those two people know who I am. They have tattoos on their faces, and one of them is Mr. Show, has a Mr. Show face or whatever, you know. I mean, they were intense characters, the fans, and I knew who they were, and there were enough of them to buoy a career for many years. Netflix is great. The challenge is there's so many projects that come out there that you can get lost in the plethora of options.
The sheer
Just
amount
the
of
sheer
content
number of things. And whereas if you're with AMC, right, they really are going to invest in getting your presence known over a fair amount of time. And then you come back for a fourth season, and they make a big deal out of that fourth season, and they make weeks of a big deal out of it. Right now you see a lot of people trading in the old model, the cable model, for the Netflix model. But I also think when there's going to be a value in, I want people to know about my show. I want people to have, you know, this company behind me and my idea that's going to tell everybody about my show for weeks and really make a big deal out of it and really try to get my story in front of people's eyes and have them compelled to watch it. That's a value. There's a group of people at all these networks, right? And they look for compelling stories and they take chances on things, you know. And they're all good at what they do, and their value, it means a lot to people like me who are creating shows. I want to work with the good people who are doing that. So, shoot, man, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know what's going to happen. What's it going to look like in 3 years? I don't know.
And we still don't know Google, Apple, right? We're still learning about Amazon's ambitions. 5 years or from now, it's going to be...
The question is, how much is the curated part of this business model worth to regular human beings? How much is it worth to have the wonderful executives at AMC go, these are the 3 shows you should see. We've worked for a long time on them. And you as an audience member go, I just trust them, I'm going to get something good there. Or versus you weeding your way through a massive amount of stuff and finding your show. I think, you know, it's got to go back and forth between those two. It can't go all down one road, I think.
Hey CNBC fans, I'm Carl Quintanilla. Thanks for watching CNBC's Binge on YouTube. You can subscribe by clicking right here, Watch all of our interviews on the changing media landscape. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch more from CNBC. Thanks for watching.